Hello everyone, warm greetings. It's indeed been a while since the last video I posted here, and lately I've been learning more about how to affect changes at scale, and also I've been applying some of this in the past, some of the roles I've had from a leadership perspective, and I feel this is a key element of leadership. So I thought it might be worthwhile sharing a process that you can take to effect change. And before I dive into the details, I'd like to give credits to the change management courses I've been uh, learning both at Stanford and as well as MIT Sloan, as well as for the evolution of this thought process from my perspective. So here are the 10 steps that I think that can help you effect change in most, if not all, contexts. Step one would be using the strategic lens to identify the elements of the change and creating the outline for the change. Remember, change needs to be meticulously planned with all the necessary elements for its success. And this step is really about building the strategic plan, including thoughts about who the stakeholders are, what their specific personas are, and how you would like to tailor the plan. And one thing Professor Rao has been uh, very clear about in that course that I took, and I think it makes more sense, is that one size does not fit all, and it is the same for any change effort. Okay, so change effort needs to be tailored for this situation as well as who is getting affected with that change. Step number two is a use of the political lens to understand and assess the current power structure and mobilizing change with that support. Every organization is different. The plan should have considerations on how to leverage the existing power structure so that you can accelerate the results. Step number three would be using the cultural lens to look at the symbols and other cultural elements specific to the ecosystem. What really has succeeded in the past in this ecosystem by others wanting to make this change, what has not, and how can your process for the change be adjusted uh, so that it is less likely to fail. So that is step number three. And step number four would be to putting these things together, um, and building the strategic framework for the change. And one of the models that I've learned in one of those courses is the press framework. And it's about leveraging the five steps, namely persuasion, recruiting, energizing, staffing, and sequencing the change, and making sure all these elements are well thought into your process. And there are other uh, nuances in how you manage the change. So it is about it's not just about building the plan. It is also about the operational aspects of it. So there are some thoughts on those as well. So once you think through this um, stepwise approach in terms of building the strategy, next would be to think about the 90 to 100-day plan to implement the change, and also the key elements of it, with due consideration on the different personas and specific thoughts on how to persuade the different personas or the stakeholders as part of the change, energize new behaviors, and sequence those steps in the right fashion so the change effort can be effective. Um, how to review the change as it is happening is also important, because that is the next key element in terms of how to operationalize a change and what potential alternate strategies could be utilized and under what circumstances. Remember, things could change as you are affecting the change, and it is about uh, this process of monitoring the change or the review process on a periodic basis in terms of how the change is going and how you can adjust based on that, whether to accelerate, whether to change gears, whether to slow down for a little bit so that you can move much faster ahead later and all that. So all these things you have to think about even before you start the process. And next is operationalizing it, which is there are different frameworks for that as well. One of them would be using the four S's, which include simplifying, standardizing, stabilizing, and synchronizing. Simplifying is just about understanding the current processes and making it better and making it more efficient with specific approaches, like if there are problems, you see those problems, you swarm those problems in terms of your team, the way it is structured. I mean, you would have planned the team structure in the strategic part, but the this step is about how you effectively see, swarm, and scale the identified problem, and you fixing it, and as well as scaling the changed process to the scale of the organization, and solving it at the organizational scale. And once you simplify it, you have to standardize the process across the organization. So you put it to the test, and you make sure that small little variations are accounted for across different organization, and you think about it in how it will affect different parts of the organization, how you can tune the elements so that it is a standardized process across the organization. And as you affect this change at a larger scale, you would encounter other slight issues, and then it's about stabilizing those issues and fixing those, and again further refining it and scaling it again, so that it is now at an organizational scale. And now you um, operationalize it like a well-oiled machine. That is what the synchronized step is about. It is about making sure that you have clear processes to make the change run effortlessly and smoothly. And once that is done, it is about creating momentum for enabling scale. You can track and socialize the change to further mobilize support and snowball the change at a larger scale. You can enable your team with a decentralized decision process, so change as or the processes don't take as much time. It takes it the speed of the change increases, and this is a consideration as well when you design the organization. So the first step in terms of how you structure things will have some of these thoughts already put into, but this is when you affect that step. And once that is done, you can create a learning dynamic by design as well of the organization. And this is a critical element from a leadership perspective, or this is what a developmental leadership should look like, where you should create a smooth learning dynamic inside the organization where the team is constantly learning and applying things that they learn to improve the quality of the outcomes. And last but not the least would be scaling for the organization at the largest scale. Uh, this could include things like creating communities, creating artifacts, and many other things that you would do to support the scale of the change. And hope this has given you a repeatable process in terms of how a large scale change can be affected in most, if not all, contexts. And I hope you find this useful. If you do find this useful, please let me know with your like or the subscribe actions on the channel. Thank you so much, and take care, everyone.